Mornings in New York City are always bustling. In Elizabeth Collins' kitchen on the 12th floor of a Manhattan high-rise apartment, the sweet scent of vanilla wafted through the air. As the morning sunlight streamed through the window, Elizabeth carefully applied icing to cupcakes. Her hands were delicate, with the graceful precision of an artist's brush strokes. Elizabeth was a popular pastry chef with over 100,000 followers on Instagram and ran her own online cake shop, Elizabeth Sweets. Her colorful and artistic designer cakes were renowned even among celebrities, especially for special events like weddings and baby showers, with a waiting list of 6 months. "Honey, you should start getting ready soon. Today's meeting starts at 10, said Michael, her husband, who appeared in the kitchen wearing a navy suit and adjusting his tie. Michael was an executive at a major IT company, a man with a gentle personality and intellectual air. He softly embraced Elizabeth from behind and kissed her cheek. "I know. This is the last batch. They're samples for this weekend's bridal shower." Elizabeth smiled as she finished the pink rose-shaped icing on the last cupcake. Michael picked one up, calling it a taste test, and took a bite. "Still brilliant. Your talent amazes me every day." Michael and Elizabeth met 5 years ago at his company's Christmas party, where she had catered the dessert buffet. Impressed, Michael had approached her, and they quickly grew close, marrying a year later. Now they lived in an upscale Manhattan neighborhood with their 2 cats, Oliver and Luna. "By the way, I got a call from my mother today. My parents are coming to town next weekend," Michael said. Elizabeth's expression tensed momentarily. Her relationship with Michael's parents, Robert and Vivian, was far from ideal. Robert was a successful businessman who ran a real estate company based in Boston. Raised in a strict household, he took pride in his success and always had high expectations of his son, Michael. Vivian, a former high school teacher and now a housewife living an elegant lifestyle, doted on Michael and held very specific standards for a suitable wife for her son. "They're coming again. They were just here last month," Elizabeth sighed deeply. The relationship with her in-laws had been complicated from the beginning. They had been skeptical of Elizabeth from the start, with Vivian particularly looking down on her, calling her the baker's daughter. They believed their son's partner should have been a doctor, lawyer, or someone from a prestigious family. Michael rubbed her shoulders and said, "Don't worry. I'll handle it properly this time." In contrast, Elizabeth's relationship with her own parents, Jonathan and Martha, was warm. Jonathan was the founder of Collins Bakery, a popular cake chain with over 50 locations across the United States. His passion and innovative business methods had been passed down to Elizabeth. Martha was a marketing consultant who had greatly contributed to her husband's business expansion. They supported Elizabeth's independence and were proud of her talent. They also warmly welcomed Michael, always inviting the couple to their home for holidays. Currently, the Collins couple had moved to California, living a semi-retired life while occasionally providing business advice or helping develop new recipes. "I should get going. I might be late tonight, but I'll make sure to take Saturday off. Maybe we could see a movie." Michael glanced at his watch. "Sounds lovely. I'm looking forward to it," Elizabeth smiled. After Michael left, Elizabeth began tidying up the kitchen. Looking at the calendar, she noticed her birthday was next Tuesday. Her parents had said they couldn't come to celebrate because they were traveling for business, but they seemed to be planning something special. Meanwhile, her in-laws' visit was scheduled for the same weekend, leaving Elizabeth with mixed feelings. Her phone rang, and the display showed Mom. "Good morning, Elizabeth. I'm just trying a new recipe. About your birthday, I've prepared a special present. Look forward to it." Hearing Martha's warm voice lightened Elizabeth's mood. She was grateful for the bond with her parents, which contrasted sharply with the cold relationship with her in-laws. Elizabeth looked out the window. The Manhattan skyline gleamed in the morning light. In that moment, she was content with her life, a successful career, a loving husband, and a warm family back home. If only the relationship with her in-laws didn't cast a small shadow on her heart. Elizabeth's birthday began like any ordinary Tuesday. In the morning, Michael prepared a special breakfast and brought it to bed, along with a small gift box. Inside the box was an antique brooch Elizabeth had been wanting. It was a delicate gold flower-shaped brooch with a small ruby glistening in the center. "Oh, it's beautiful. How did you find it?" "I noticed you'd saved it several times on your Pinterest board," Michael winked. "I've made reservations for a special dinner tonight. Be ready by 7, and I'll pick you up." After Michael left for work, Elizabeth worked on designing a new cake. In the early afternoon, she realized she was short on some ingredients and went shopping at the neighborhood supermarket. It was an unusually warm spring day, and Elizabeth enjoyed the ambience of the city as she walked slowly. While selecting ingredients at the supermarket, her phone rang. It was from a delivery company she didn't recognize. "Miss Collins, we tried to deliver a package to your home, but you weren't there. Would you like us to redeliver?" "Oh, I'm sorry. I'll be home soon. Could you wait about 30 minutes, if possible?" "Certainly. We'll wait for you." Elizabeth quickly finished her shopping and hurried home. A small delivery van was parked in front of her apartment. "Ms. Collins? We've been waiting for you. Please sign here." The delivery person handed her a large white box. The box had the Collins Bakery logo printed on it, and Elizabeth understood it was a birthday present from her parents. She accepted the package with a smile and said, "Thank you." As she tried to open her front door, Elizabeth noticed something strange. The door was opening from the inside, and Vivian Morrison's face appeared. "Oh, Elizabeth. What perfect timing." Elizabeth couldn't hide her surprise. "Vivian, why are you here? I wasn't expecting you. We had sudden business in Boston, so I called Michael. He gave me the key." Upon entering the living room, Elizabeth saw Robert Morrison sitting on the sofa, watching television. He greeted her curtly without turning around. "Hello, Elizabeth." Elizabeth, though confused, responded politely. "Robert, Vivian, I'm surprised by your sudden visit. Did Michael know about this?" "Of course. But he's busy, so he probably forgot to tell you," Vivian answered. "Besides, since he married you, he hardly has time to see us anymore." Elizabeth swallowed her words and carried her packages to the kitchen. As she was about to put the cake box in the refrigerator, her phone rang. The display showed, "Mom. Happy birthday, Elizabeth. I sent you a special cake. Did it arrive?" Martha's voice sounded excited. "Thank you. I just received it. I'm looking forward to it. Dad and I made it with a special recipe. It's a peach Melba cake, the one you loved as a child. But we've made it a bit more sophisticated this time." Elizabeth smiled. "Wonderful. I'll share it with Michael later. We have a special dinner tonight." "That sounds lovely. Enjoy your evening. Dad says hello too." After ending the call, Elizabeth tried to put the cake box in the refrigerator but couldn't find it. She looked around the kitchen, but the box was nowhere to be seen. "Vivian, did you see a white cake box? I just brought it in." Vivian entered the kitchen and casually responded, "Oh, that? I threw it away." Elizabeth couldn't believe her ears. "What? What do you mean you threw it away?" "Well, there was no name on it, and when I opened it and saw it was a cake, I thought it was just some old sample or something. I put it in the trash." Vivian shrugged. Elizabeth quickly checked the trash can. The cake box had been crushed and discarded. When she opened the lid, the beautifully decorated cake was smashed, the cream and cake base ruined. "This was a special birthday cake my parents made for me. Why would you throw it away? Elizabeth's voice trembled. Robert entered the kitchen and glanced at the situation. Oh, that was yours, he said mockingly. I thought a daughter-in-law's birthday was meaningless. Elizabeth was speechless with anger and sadness. Just then, the front door opened, and Michael came home. Elizabeth, I could leave early today. Oh, Mom, Dad. Why are you here? Vivian smiled at her son. We had a sudden trip to Boston. We decided to stop by your home. Michael noticed Elizabeth's expression and moved to her side. What's wrong? Did something happen? Elizabeth explained the situation, fighting back tears. Michael's expression hardened with anger. What's going on? Why did you throw away Elizabeth's cake? Vivian began making excuses. Well, I didn't know. Even if you didn't know, you have no right to throw away someone else's property. Michael's voice was cold. Please leave now. Stay at a hotel tonight. Robert stood up. Is that any way to talk to your parents? As long as you don't respect my wife, I can't respect you, Michael firmly declared. Please, just go for today. In the tense atmosphere, Robert and Vivian reluctantly began packing their things. That night, Elizabeth and Michael's birthday dinner was a subdued affair. At the restaurant, the chef personally visited their table to offer birthday wishes, but joy didn't reach Elizabeth's heart. The loss of her parents' special cake left a deep sadness in her chest. Michael took his wine glass and gently held his wife's hand. I'm truly sorry. My parents' behavior is inexcusable. Elizabeth sighed deeply. No matter what I do, they'll never accept me. I don't want to be involved with my parents anymore, Michael said resolutely. I should distance myself from anyone who hurts you, even if they're my parents. The next morning, as Elizabeth was preparing for work, Michael's phone began to ring. The display flashed, Mother. Michael ignored the call and poured his morning coffee. Aren't you going to answer it? Elizabeth asked. I don't want to talk right now, Michael replied briefly. However, the phone kept ringing, and eventually, calls started coming to Elizabeth's phone too. She gave Michael a perplexed look. Maybe you should answer. If we keep ignoring them, they might show up again. Michael reluctantly agreed and answered the phone on speaker. Why aren't you answering your phone? Vivian's voice was mixed with anger and anxiety. I don't want to talk right now. But how could you treat us like that? Throwing your parents out of your house, it's outrageous. Michael's face hardened. What's outrageous is you throwing away my wife's birthday cake and mocking her. That was a misunderstanding. We didn't know, so it couldn't be helped, Vivian continued making excuses. I'm disappointed there's no word of apology, Michael said calmly. I need some distance right now. The call abruptly ended, leaving a heavy silence in the room. Later that afternoon, while Elizabeth was making cakes in her workshop, she received a video call from her parents. She wiped her hands and faced the screen. Thank you. But the cake is. We know, Elizabeth, Martha said gently. We read your message. That was a terrible thing to happen. I was truly sad, Elizabeth answered honestly. Jonathan's deep voice resonated, don't worry. We're heading to New York tomorrow. We've moved up our business trip. Elizabeth was surprised. Really? But I thought you weren't coming until next week. Our daughter was hurt. We can't just ignore that. The next afternoon, Elizabeth's doorbell rang. When she opened it, Jonathan in a suit and Martha in an elegant dress were standing there. Elizabeth hugged her parents. Are you okay? Martha asked, peering into her daughter's face. The three sat in the living room, and Elizabeth explained the situation in detail. Jonathan's expression grew increasingly stern as the story progressed. That's unacceptable, he said in a low voice. To treat a cake we made with so much love like that. And to treat you that way, Martha added. How did Michael react? He strongly protested and made them leave, Elizabeth answered. And yesterday when they called, he remained firm. Jonathan stood up quietly and gazed out the window. Actually, I have another connection with the Morrisons. Elizabeth and Martha looked at him in surprise. Last month, Robert approached me about financing a major real estate project. He's trying to develop a large commercial facility in Boston, but the bank's loan conditions are strict, and he was considering having me as a guarantor. I had no idea. Elizabeth couldn't hide her surprise. It was a business matter. But after this incident, my decision has changed. Jonathan took out his phone. I can't do business with someone who doesn't respect my daughter. He called Robert and put it on speaker. Jonathan. I didn't expect to hear from you so soon. Robert's voice sounded relaxed. Robert, regarding the loan guarantee, I'm afraid I'll have to decline. Silence fell on the other end of the phone. What do you mean? You were positive about it last week. I heard what happened from my daughter. You threw away her birthday cake and insulted her. That was just a misunderstanding. Vivian didn't know. It's not about misunderstanding, it's about respect. Jonathan's voice was cold. I can't proceed with a $200 million project with someone who can't respect his daughter or daughter-in-law. Jonathan, you can't be serious. Are you mixing a small family issue with business? Robert's voice grew anxious. For me, family is paramount. If you don't understand that, our values don't align. After the call ended, silence filled the room for a while. Martha placed her hand on Elizabeth's shoulder and whispered, "Be strong." That evening, when Michael returned home, Elizabeth was chatting with the Collins couple in the living room. He was surprised to see his in-laws but quickly exchanged warm greetings. We heard about the situation and decided to come immediately, Jonathan explained. Michael sat on the sofa and sighed deeply. My father called me 6 times today. I didn't answer. I contacted him too, Jonathan said. I was planning to be involved in his project's financing, but I cancelled that. Michael showed a surprised expression. Father's waterfront project. That's a big blow for him. Just then, the doorbell rang. Everyone exchanged glances. When the door opened, Robert and Vivian were standing there. Robert, unlike his usual dignified self, had a tense face, and Vivian's eyes were red. Robert awkwardly said, "We need to talk." What do you want? Michael asked coldly. Our behavior was inappropriate. Robert chose his words carefully. Elizabeth, we've come to apologize. Elizabeth opened the door and invited them into the living room. Robert and Vivian were visibly shaken to see the Collins couple. Robert spoke up, I didn't know you were here. We came immediately when we heard about our daughter's distress, Jonathan replied calmly. Elizabeth, Vivian stepped forward. I'm truly sorry for throwing away your cake. Even though I didn't know, disposing of it was my mistake. Elizabeth silently stared at her. And, Robert continued, my comments were inappropriate. I apologize. However, those words still lacked sincere regret and seemed like a mere formality. Robert's eyes kept darting toward Jonathan, revealing his true concern. Michael stood before his parents and quietly said, I accept your apology. But I still need time. Vivian started to say something, but Robert grabbed her arm and silently shook his head. I understand, Robert reluctantly agreed. Jonathan, could we discuss this in more detail at your office tomorrow? My decision won't change, Jonathan replied firmly. After the Morrison couple left, the atmosphere in the living room transformed. Elizabeth sighed with relief and sat beside Michael. That wasn't a genuine apology, she said quietly. They still don't truly understand what they did, Martha responded. But it's a start. Jonathan took a glass of whiskey and quietly said, "Sometimes people only realize the value of precious things when they're about to lose them." 2 weeks passed. While Elizabeth was working on a new wedding cake design, she received a message from Michael. "I got a call from my father. The situation seems quite serious." Elizabeth frowned as she replied, "What do you mean?" After Jonathan withdrew as guarantor, the bank tightened their loan conditions. And this morning, a major investor decided to withdraw too. Elizabeth felt conflicted. While her in-laws' actions were unforgivable, she felt a small sympathy knowing they were facing a business crisis. That night, Michael returned home with a dejected expression. "My father came to my office today," he said, sinking deep into the sofa. "He was more distraught than I've ever seen him." "What happened?" Elizabeth sat next to her husband and placed a hand on his shoulder. "The waterfront project has completely collapsed. All the key investors withdrew, and the bank pulled their financing. Years of planning gone to waste." "And what did he want from you?" Michael sighed deeply. "He asked for financial help. Wanted to know if my savings could cover the gap." Elizabeth was surprised. "You didn't." "I refused," Michael said decisively. "Father needs to accept the consequences of his actions. Besides, our savings are for your new cake shop in Manhattan." As they were talking, the doorbell rang. When Michael opened it, Vivian was standing alone. Her usually perfectly styled hair was disheveled, and her eyes were swollen from crying. Her voice trembled, "Could we talk?" They invited Vivian into the living room. She sat down and, with shaking hands, took a small box from her bag. "This is for you." Inside the box was a delicate silver bracelet. "It's been passed down from my mother. I wanted to give it to you as a token of my apology." "What's going on?" Elizabeth asked quietly. "Everything is falling apart," Vivian said, crying. "Robert's project has completely failed, and we're facing enormous debt. The bank says they'll put a lien on our house." She covered her face with her hands. "I want to sincerely apologize for our mistakes. For throwing away your cake, for not respecting you. I'm truly sorry." Elizabeth sensed truth in Vivian's words. However, Michael still maintained a skeptical expression. "Mom, where's Dad? Why didn't he come with you?" "He's still letting his pride get in the way," Vivian sighed. "I've reached my limit. I've realized that family bonds are more important than anything." "But Robert..." Just then, Michael's phone rang. The display showed Jonathan. "Michael, are you and Elizabeth there?" Jonathan's voice echoed. "Yes, we are. Actually, Vivian is here too." "That's good. I have something important to tell you. Tomorrow, Martha and I are hosting an opening party for the new Collins Bakery. We've invited many influential people from New York. Of course, we'd like you to come." "I understand," Michael answered. "And one more thing, are Robert and Vivian invited too?" On the other end of the phone, Jonathan seemed to consider for a moment. "Of course, we've sent invitations to them as Boston business owners. Though I don't know if they'll come." After ending the call, Michael explained the situation to Vivian. She showed a complex expression but nodded. "I'll go. And I'll bring Robert too." The next evening, the newly opening Collins Bakery was elegantly decorated and bustling with many guests. Elizabeth and Michael stood next to Jonathan and Martha, greeting the arriving guests. About 30 minutes after the party started, Robert and Vivian appeared at the entrance. Robert couldn't hide his tired expression, and Vivian was firmly holding his arm. They slowly approached Jonathan and the others. "Thank you for the invitation," Robert said stiffly. "Glad you could make it," Jonathan extended his hand. In the tense atmosphere, Martha gently tapped her glass and began a speech. The venue fell silent. Thank you all for coming today. We're celebrating not only the opening of the new Collins Bakery but also acknowledging our daughter Elizabeth's achievements. Martha smiled at Elizabeth. Her online shop's partnership with our business will open a new era. Amidst the applause, Martha continued, but today, I have one more thing to share, about the importance of family bonds. The venue quieted again, and Martha began speaking softly. Recently, on my daughter's birthday, a cake we made with love was thrown away by her in-laws. She was told, a daughter-in-law's birthday is meaningless. Murmurs arose from the audience. The blood drained from Robert's face, and Vivian lowered her head. However, I'm not speaking here to condemn, but to advocate for the importance of reconciliation and respect. No business success can replace family happiness. When the speech ended, a heavy silence fell over the venue. Many eyes turned to Robert and Vivian. Their reputation in Boston's social circles was wavering significantly at this moment. Later in the party, Robert was standing alone on the terrace. As Elizabeth approached him, he turned around. Elizabeth. His voice had lost its usual dignity. I'm truly sorry. There stood a sincere Robert she had never seen before. Pride and arrogance gone, just an aging man standing there. I've taken pride only in my success for a long time. And I thought that was the only measure of value. That's why I looked down on you, a pastry chef. He sighed deeply. But now, about to lose everything, I've started thinking about what truly matters. Michael's happiness, and your presence. Elizabeth said quietly, I accept your apology. But it will take time to repair our relationship. I understand that, Robert nodded. I'm grateful just for the chance to start over. Late that night, when Elizabeth and Michael returned home, Michael embraced his wife. Are you okay? Yes, Elizabeth smiled. Today was an important day. I feel like it's a new beginning. Michael kissed her cheek. I never thought my father would really change. But today, he was different. People can change, Elizabeth said, looking out the window. Especially when they're about to lose something precious. That night, Elizabeth fell asleep with a peaceful feeling she hadn't experienced in a long time. A year later, on a spring Sunday, Elizabeth's kitchen was busier than ever. You should make the dough a little softer, Vivian said as she carefully kneaded vanilla dough next to Elizabeth. Her clothes were dusted with flour, and her hair was casually tied back, an unimaginable sight from the perfectionist Vivian of the past. Yes, but be careful not to overwork it, Elizabeth smiled as she advised. From the living room, the voices of Michael and Robert discussing a baseball game could be heard. Their relationship too was slowly but surely being repaired. Elizabeth placed a hand on her rounded belly. 5 months pregnant, she and Michael were expecting their first child in the fall. When they found out it was a girl, Vivian was unexpectedly overjoyed and immediately began knitting adorable baby clothes. How does it feel? Vivian asked softly. Genuine interest shone in her eyes. I'm happy. A little scared, but very excited, Elizabeth answered honestly. You'll be a wonderful mother, Vivian said quietly. Much better than I was. Feeling her voice slightly waver, Elizabeth placed her hand over Vivian's. And you'll surely be a good grandmother. Tears glistened in Vivian's eyes. Thank you, Elizabeth, for giving me this chance. Since that incident, many things had changed. Robert's real estate company had been significantly downsized, and he had to let go of half his business. However, this brought him humility, and now he focused on smaller projects, developing a healthier business. The biggest change was in his values. Robert, who once pursued only success and wealth, now cherished time with his family. Particularly, his eagerness for the birth of his first grandchild was a change that surprised everyone. Meanwhile, Elizabeth's career was progressing well. Her online cake shop had officially partnered with her parents' Collins Bakery and was now known throughout New York. Currently, she had reduced her workload in preparation for childbirth but was already thinking about new projects for after the baby's arrival. "Is the cake ready?" Martha entered the kitchen. She and Jonathan had also come from Boston for today's family gathering. "It'll be out of the oven in about 10 minutes, Elizabeth replied. Today was her birthday. In contrast to last year's bitter memories, this year the entire family had gathered to celebrate. The cake was taken out of the oven, and everyone began decorating it. While Martha and Elizabeth prepared colorful icings, Vivian was creating flower patterns with surprising skill. "Beautiful technique," Martha complimented Vivian. "You used to do ikebana, right?" "Yes, I was passionate about it when I was younger," Vivian replied happily. A friendship was slowly beginning to blossom between them two. With the cake completed, everyone gathered at the dining table. Jonathan opened champagne and poured it into glasses. "Happy birthday, Elizabeth," Robert said quietly. "And thank you for accepting us this past year." Elizabeth smiled, looking around the table. It was a scene she couldn't have imagined a year ago. "We've overcome it together," she replied. Michael put his arm around Elizabeth's shoulder and kissed her cheek. "Your strength and kindness made this possible." In the soft light of the candles, Elizabeth took a deep breath, made a wish, and blew out the candles. Her wish had already come true. She had found a true family bond.